Hi, Student Success. Welcome to week 6 of the summer semester. This week runs from July 12th through the 18th. So you can hopefully feel that we're getting closer to the end of the semester, which is great news. Actually, before I scroll all the way down, I just wanted to let you know that in this week, week 6, I will also reopen week 1. So you're going to see both week 1 and week 6 open at the same time. Week 1 will open up toward the end of week 6, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I do this because there are some students who either registered late or maybe just were still getting Blackboard figured out and they did not get week 1 work completed. And so this is a chance to make up some of those points, raise your grade, get back in there and try to help yourself finish a little bit more strongly if you need to. So be on the lookout for that. I will put it in my announcements. I'll say, okay, hey, starting today, or starting Friday, week 1 is reopened also. So I just wanted to make sure I said that right at the beginning of the video. Pay attention for week 1. It will be rescheduled to open up toward the end of week 6, like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I will also be doing that for weeks 2 and 3 in the next coming weeks as well to allow anyone to make up work from earlier in the semester. All right, so let me scroll down here. Week 6, you can see we're in chapter 6. Aligns nicely. So you can see we have 4 assignments going on this week. Chapter 6 discussion. So you have a discussion post that is due by Wednesday for week 6 attendance. Make sure you post your original response by Wednesday and then respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. And then you'll see you have a chapter 6 assignment, a memory assignment, and a how well do you study assignment. So let's go ahead and jump in the materials folder. We have a chapter 6 textbook link, which I have up and running over here, and the chapter 6 slides. Now, quick note on the chapter 6 slides. These are not like your typical slides that we've looked at in the past several weeks. This is like a PDF. It's like a handbook, I guess. The coordinator borrowed this from another institution, and so there's lots of detail in this. So I'm going to kind of flip back and forth from our text to the handbook here, and I'm going to encourage you as always to kind of pay attention in the areas that you need most attention to. All right, so chapter 6, preparing for and taking tests. So, as always, it starts off with kind of like a real quick assessment. What are your goals as it relates to test taking? So you probably, if you're like the average student, so to speak, are not always a big fan of tests. So why do we do that? Well, because they really do help kind of your instructors as well as yourself assess and see where you are with the material. And I think if you can start to view tests, if you are anxious about them or you're not a big fan, if you try to view them as a learning opportunity, as well as an opportunity to show what you know. So if you can view your test taking as a way to really demonstrate what you know, you can maybe approach it with a more positive attitude or alleviate a little bit of pressure on yourselves. So again, it's not a way to kind of, as it says right here, like to show how smart you are. It's to show what you know about the subject at that point in time. How much you know, how much you need to know. And it's a learning opportunity, a way to learn and improve. So this talks about, the importance of doing that. And this is going to walk you through like a cycle of how to prepare and plan for tests. So again, cycle means all of these things are going on. Maybe you have to go back and do this. So you are preparing for your test. You're taking in new ideas. You're recording your information somehow. You're applying it, and then on and on. So the next section talks about test anxiety. Lots of people experience test anxiety. So here's again a real quick assessment to see where are you with your test anxiety. A lot of times we experience test anxiety because we go into fight or flight mode, which means we kind of go back to our primitive brain, if you will. We sometimes might view a test as a threat for whatever reason. There's a lot of pressure to do well. We didn't study enough, so we view it as a threat, and our brain literally shuts down parts of our thinking that controls the critical thinking, memory, and we go blank because you are going into fight or flight. And so your brain is really focused on getting away from the enemy. And so we have to really change, as I said before, change the way that we approach test taking, the way that we view it, and then if needed, change the way that we study and prepare for them. Okay, so this is going to talk about, how to prepare and be more proactive with your test anxiety. So be prepared. That's one of the key things. I mean, if you are anxious because you didn't study, that's within your control. You know, you might have a busy schedule, but still trying to find that time to prepare is going to be one of the best ways you can combat test anxiety. It's just being prepared, which also means knowing when the tests are. That's one of my favorite things, is when a student says, I had no idea how to test today, even though it's on the syllabus and in the announcements and so on. So make sure you know when the test is. Make sure you know what material is going to be covered, you know, what chapters, what format. So knowing all those things is going to be helpful. Bounce bad vibes, meaning challenge your negative thinking. Okay, I don't know this material. That's a negative thought. So try to turn it into more positive. I don't know it as well as I'd like to, but I'm really confident in XYZ. So try to really turn those negatives into positive thinking. Visualize success. You know, we are more likely to do better if we have that positive attitude and can visualize us succeeding. And don't compete with other people. So some students really get nervous if they're taking a test and after 20 minutes they see someone turn it in and their immediate thought is, oh my gosh, they must have really known the material. I don't. Why did they get done so quickly and I'm not? You really want to focus on yourself, because you really have no idea if that person who turned the test in really early knew their stuff or they really didn't know it and they just turned it in and wrote down a bunch of crap. You don't know. So you really want to focus on you, how you're doing, how you're progressing in the test. You know, have a plan. So for instance, if it's an essay test, which again goes back to knowing the modality of the test, have a plan. How much time are you going to spend on pre-writing, reviewing, revising? If it's multiple choice, how are you going to approach the questions? So have a plan in mind. Make sure these are kind of like normal things that you've heard probably all your life. Make sure that you've rested the night before. Make sure you've had a good meal right beforehand and just try to relax. I always tell my students to do progressive muscle relaxation. It's where you start with the tips of your toes and you turn them into fists with your toes and hold it for 10 seconds and then let go. And then you try to work every muscle from your toes all the way up to your eyebrows. 10 seconds tense and then let it go. It helps your body relax. All right, so that goes more into depth again on that section with test anxiety. The next section talks about studying to learn, not just for tests. So this is the other part. If you are literally just learning material to do well on a test, it's not going to benefit you in the long run. And this is where cramming can hurt you, because some people say, oh yeah, I cram and it always works. Usually you're right in the short term. So if you have a chapter 5 test and you wait till the night before to cram, your short-term memory has all that material in it. The next morning you do well on the test. But then what happens when you have a unit test in a few weeks over chapters 3, 4, 5? Your memory was stressed at that time, so odds are you're not going to remember that cram session. So you want to study to learn, not just study to take a test, and really understand the information. And so this section will talk to you about how to do that. You want to study a little bit every day. So even if it's 10 minutes, set 10 minutes aside first thing in the morning or right before bed or whenever it works for you. Set 10 minutes aside to start studying. And then as you get a little closer, maybe you'll bump it up to 20 minutes or 30 minutes, connect material, visualize how it applies to you. How can you use it? How is it going to be useful to you long term? And then cement your knowledge. So test yourself. This goes back to like memory. Our memory has the capability to remember things forever. It's getting it out of our long-term memory. So practice retrieving it. That's how and why we use flashcards, study groups, practice tests, repetition. All of those things are going to try to practice getting the information out of your long-term memory. So again, these are different strategies and to-dos, not to-dos in terms of making sure that you are prepared for the test. And these are more tips for success. Have a study schedule. Sometimes with time management, we build in like when we're working, when we're going to school, when we're having time with family or friends, but we don't build in like a study time. So you want to make sure that you have that time built in. Make sure you're in the right physical space as well as the right mental space. So making sure that you have a study space dedicated to academics, that you're not distracted by things, and then give yourself some breaks. This also talks about studying in groups. I always think studying in groups is important. I'm a very big believer in sociocultural learning, meaning that people from different backgrounds can add perspectives that we may never think of ourselves. And so they can add something in that you might think of in a different way, or they might have understood something and be able to explain it to you in a way that even the teacher couldn't. So these are some tips on, studying with a group, whether it's kind of assigned to you or on your own, trying to make sure that you are setting ground rules and objectives and meeting regularly and, making sure that you kind of have like a plan to follow and follow up with those. Okay, the next section is taking tests, which, obviously the whole point of this, taking tests. So there are different types of tests, and it goes over formative and summative. Formative is kind of the chapter at a time. Summative is when it's the big ones, the midterms, the finals. So those are the different types of tests, and you should approach them a little differently. And then you also need to be aware of the different kind of parameters around tests. In class, there's pros and cons to that. You're sitting in the classroom with a teacher, you can ask questions, but you also might be distracted by people around you. Now, open book tests, sometimes students think, oh, if open book, I don't have to study. Not really. Sometimes I have students who do really poorly on open book because they don't study at all, thinking they can use the book, and then they're not really familiar with the material. Same with like take home and online. You want to make sure that you're being honest with yourself, using only the resources that you're allowed. So you want to, again, just kind of look at these. And then you might also be assessed through presentations and oral tests. And this is common in, obviously like your speech classes. When I have my reading classes, and sometimes when I teach my college success in person, I might have them, and I do this with my college success for their chapter 6 quiz, I believe it is. They have to do like a mini presentation instead of like a paper pencil test. Another time I do like a game show, and that's how they, so there are different types and ways that instructors can assess your information. And again, it goes back to making sure that you know what's on the test and the format of the test as well. So that goes into this right here, it kind of blends right in. Learn as much as you can about the test. Ask the instructor, can I use notes? Is it multiple choice? Is it essay? Odds are they're going to tell you, and they don't want to, set you up for failure. They want you to do well. Kind of predict the kind of questions. So that might be based on your notes, based on the end of chapter questions. Try to understand or predict what kind of questions might be on the test. Again, goes back to try not to cram because that's not helping you in the long run. Try to arrive early if you can so that you can get yourself set up and relaxed. Create a test plan. Again, that goes back to planning. When you get the test, if it's essay, how long are you going to spend on each section? If it's multiple choice, write down things on the test paper or scrap paper if you're allowed to do so you can kind of get your thoughts together. Read the directions carefully. I have so many students who miss easy points because they just misread or they skip over parts. Do the easy questions first. That way you're more confident about the test and you can spend more time later. Also, don't change an answer unless you absolutely know you got it wrong the first time, because 75% of the time we change right answers to wrong answers. So you only want to change your answer if you know 100% that you got it wrong the first time. Keep an eye on the time, manage your time, and then go back through and check your work. And then this section does talk about like math and science, because sometimes you need to approach those tests a little differently. So if you need to kind of get some tips there, you'll spend some time there. The next section talks about Q's and A's, so questions and answers, and this goes over the formats of tests. So based on the type of test, you really should approach them differently. And so this section, and also this is where I'll kind of go back, you can see the PDF talks about preparing, reviewing. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more, and eventually you're going to see, this test strategies. So this is going to go in more detail as well with the different types of tests, so you can kind of use that as well. So the major types of tests: multiple choice, true, false, matching, which I don't know if you see that as frequently in college, short answer, and essay. So if you know that the format is going to be a certain type, you should prepare differently based on that type of test. And so this is going to give you those key tips on how to do that. And again, in this PDF, this is going to go over, this one talks about, true, false. This one goes into fill in the blank. So it's some really great detail questions. There's some math strategies, what to do when you're done with the test. when you've turned it in, that shouldn't be like oh, I'm done, I never have to think about it again. Because when you get it back, you should review it and see how you did, learn from it, learn how to improve, or if you did really well, how can I continue to do well? So you really want to spend some time thinking about your results. The rest of this kind of talks about critical thinking skills and the importance of critical thinking within test taking. If you need to make an educated guess, how you go about doing that. So again, lots of detail in this PDF, and I encourage you to take a look at it. Here's like a kind of a fun critical thinking exercise. You may have seen things like that before, where it almost looks like it is nonsense. It looks like nonsense, and you have to try to figure out, okay, what is the answer? So that's kind of a neat thing to look at if you wanted to kind of test some critical thinking mixed with a little creative thinking. All right, so again, this section goes through all of those different types and how to prepare for them differently, including right here, and this is going to be part of one of your assignments, is knowing the different verbiage and what do those verbs mean. This is specific to essay tests and even some short answers. What does the verb, what does it mean, and like, how do I do that? If an essay test asks me to critique, what exactly am I doing? If an essay test is asking me to illustrate, what do I have to do? So this is really helpful. And I've had students like copy and paste this or print this out just so they know and they can kind of prepare differently for essay tests based on the different verbiage that's used. All right, and then the next section talks about the importance of academic honesty. And this is always an issue because it's always going to be there, especially with, access to technology, how we really want to make sure we're being honest in our work. And the reason we want to be honest in our work is because when you cheat, you're obviously not learning. You risk a lot of severe consequences, including failing or even dismissal from the school. It actually stresses you out because you could be worried that you're going to get caught. You're wasting your time and money when you cheat. If someone finds out, obviously you're trashing your integrity and you're not building self-esteem because you're kind of admitting to yourself you can't do this. So there's lots of reasons why not to do it. And then here are some examples of academic dishonesty. And this is going to be brought up in one of your assignments as well. So cheating is when you're using things that are unauthorized. Maybe you bring in a cheat sheet, literally, and you're using that during the test and you're not allowed, or you're home and your browser is locked and you use your phone instead. Like, all of those are examples of cheating. Obviously, we're looking off of someone else's paper is an example of cheating, submitting someone else's work with your name on it. So I think most of us are probably familiar with what it means to cheat. Plagiarism is a form of cheating, is, copying and pasting from online or having someone else write your paper or even plagiarizing off of yourself. You can submit a paper you've already submitted in a previous class. That's considered plagiarizing yourself. And making sure that you're citing correctly. If you don't cite or, give credit where it came from, that's also plagiarism. Now, fabrication is usually not going to happen in like quote unquote normal classes. It's going to be those that is like collecting data and looking at things. So it's like inventing information or kind of skewing results. Obtaining an unfair advantage, there's lots of ways you can do this. For instance, let's say you are taking a class on Tuesdays and Thursdays and your friend is taking a class on Mondays and Wednesdays, and the test is scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday. You take the test, same class, same teacher, and your friend says, oh, what should I study on the test? And you tell them, that is cheating. That's an unfair advantage. And I'm going to guess a lot of us have done that because we don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, oh, hey, really pay attention to, this section of the book. You're giving someone an unfair advantage because not everyone was given that advantage. So you really want to make sure that you're paying attention to that. So you want to make sure that you're not obtaining or giving someone an unfair advantage, which also leads into like aiding and abetting academic dishonesty, giving someone a cheat sheet, giving someone a copy of an old test. And again, some of these are a little bit more specific and you're probably not going to run into them as often. Falsifying records and unauthorized access to things. All right, and then the very last section talks about using the test results. What can you do once you've gotten your tests back? How should you take a look at this? So here's an example. It goes over this table of, okay, what kind of errors did I make? Did I not study? Did I make a content error, a mechanical error? And then how can I correct my mistakes? And this goes over again like these different formats of quizzes. And how do I improve for next time? All right, so again, your PDF goes into more detail on a lot of those things. So I encourage you to spend time on whatever sections that you feel like you can most benefit from. All right, so let's go ahead and get back into week 6, and we're going to talk about your assignments. So for this week, you are going to have, that's supposed to be up there. Wait, it looked weird. You are going to have your chapter 6 discussion. So this says in this form, you're going to answer both of these questions in 3 to 5 complete sentences. What forms of academic dishonesty are most prevalent on your campus? So if you need to come back here and you can look at this list again, here are examples of academic dishonesty. Is cheating common? Is plagiarism common? Is obtaining an unfair advantage common? So which form of academic dishonesty are most prevalent on your campus? And what can you do to avoid them in your own career? So you're answering both of those questions in 3 to 5 sentences. If you are a high school student, you can talk about what's going on in your high school. If you're an online student, you can talk about what online, meaning you've not been on campus yet to know. You can talk about what could happen in an online environment, and then what can you do to avoid them. So you want to post your original response by Wednesday for week 6 attendance, and then respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. Okay, down here you have your chapter 6 assignment. You have this little PDF you're going to open up. There are 3 parts to this assignment. So part 1, read the article. Click on it, it's going to open up into a PDF. You can see it's really actually pretty short because the first page is mostly pictures. Then here's the second page and not quite a full third page. So it's rather quick. That's the first thing you're going to do. Read the article. Question 2. Or part 2, choose one of the following verbs included here and write a short essay question about the article. So look at one of these verbs and write a question based on this article. Don't come up with a question out of the blue. It has to do with this article. I've seen some really strange things, guys. So make a question as if you were the teacher creating a test question. What kind of question would you create? Essay question using one of those verbs. So you can do like, please explain, or compare, contrast, or analyze, and then create that question. Part 3, answer your question. So you choose the question using one of these verbs relating to the article, and then you answer the question in 3 to 5 sentences. So make sure you do all 3 parts, please. All right, the next part is these 2 go together. Test your memory. You're going to take this survey first. Click on this first, test your memory. It's going to pop up in one of those little boxes. Here we go. It's going to talk to you a little bit. You're going to move through. Once you're done, it literally is testing your memory, meaning it's seeing how well you remember certain things. When you're done, this is what you're going to submit. I won't see your results right here. You are going to do this right here. You're going to click in here, and it's going to repeat the questions here. You're going to click Write Submission. And you're going to answer these 3 questions. It's a memory assignment. So how many words were you able to remember? Which words did you forget? And what techniques did you use? So take the survey first and then answer those 3 questions. Okay. So again, I cannot see how you do on the test your memory. That's why you have to go in and answer these 3 questions in the submission area. All right, I'm sorry, my dog just coughed all over me. All right, and then the very last thing you are doing is this is another survey. I will see the results to this. It is automatically graded. So as I've said before, just make sure you check because again, it's going to open up into one of these little moving box things and it's automatically graded. So make sure you go back into your, grade center where it says, yours is right there, my grades, and make sure that it's recorded. Because if it doesn't show anything on your end or if it says in progress, then I can't see it on my end either. All right, real quick recap for this week. Make sure you spend some time with chapter 6. Post your original response for chapter 6 discussion by Wednesday. Respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. And then complete your chapter 6 assignment on the article that you're reading and creating a question for and answering. The test your memory assignment, and the how well do you study assignment. All of those are due by Sunday. Hope you have a great week.